Welcome, everyone. I'm Lynn Thomas, co-founder of Arenas for Change and also co-founder of Horses for Mental Health. And thank you for joining us for our live discussion today on Finding Hope Again, a veteran's story. And since we're live, this is an opportunity. If you guys have any comments or questions, feel free to put that in the comments of either Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, whatever you're joining us on. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in our wonderful guest today, Carol Young. Thank you so much for joining us, Carol. So each May we do the Seen Through Horses campaign during Mental Health Awareness Month. And of course, we have one more day. We're in 2025, one more day of this campaign, which is really exciting. And part of the campaign, which is to expand awareness, amplify awareness of the impact horses have in mental health services, and is to create and share stories to really give people a feel of how horses can bring such a uniqueness and have such an impact in mental health services. And I want to a big thank you to Zoetis Equine, who is our title sponsor, because without them, this campaign wouldn't be happening. And it also wouldn't enable us to make these incredible videos. And one of the stories that we were able to feature this year came from Healing Strides of Virginia. And Carol Young is the executive director, CEO of that program. And you guys, this video, these are the 3-minute, we animate these videos for confidentiality, but it's just such a neat way to portray these stories. And this one is a tear jerker. And so I'm super excited. I know I always love to hear kind of like more of the details of the story. So we have a 3-minute story that really shows that impact. And at the same time, there's so much more to it. And even some of the thought processes that you guys went through as facilitators. So we want to dive into that today in our live. And oh yeah, thanks, Callie. Yeah, love the video. It's super touching. I've watched it probably over 20 times now, and I cry every time. So it's so powerful.
I still cry too, Lynn.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't even imagine. You were there. So let's go ahead and just start off with Carol. Would you share some of your story? Introduce yourself. What brought you to Healing Strides, and maybe some of that background, and we'd love to start there.
Oh, thank you. First of all, thank you for even inviting me to do this, and thanks for picking our story this year to highlight, because that is one of the most powerful stories. As anyone that's doing this work knows, every day we see miracles happen, and every day we get really heartwarming and touching stories. And so for you all to pick this one up was really wonderful. So thank you for that. I have had horses in my life since I was 4 years old, and they are very near and dear to me. My mother found a picture of me as a child, and I'm hugging this horse's nose, and I'm in this little red and white striped nightgown outside, and they couldn't find me Christmas morning, and I had apparently gone outside on my own to tell the horse Merry Christmas. And she sent me that picture not too long ago, because she had found it, and it was just like, this is where my life started, was knowing the power of horses and knowing the ability that they give to us as equally when we get to them. And so I've had horses in my life as long as I can remember. And I've been at Healing Strides going on 18 years in July. And it has been just a huge blessing. I have learned so much from the industry overall, and the kindness of the people in the industry to share their knowledge and to share their thoughts as we have moved forward. It's really beautiful to be able to every day go to work and know that you're making a difference in someone's life. And to be able to say, you know what, I get to be a part of this. I don't have to be a part of it, but I get to be a part of it. And knowing that, when I started here at Healing Strides, it was a failing nonprofit. And God has been generous enough to give me some wisdom and insight into how to move this to a very successful nonprofit, and to be able to say, along the way, we get to have and see the blessings of other people. So, Lynn, I don't know how many things you want, and I can't see the chats. I don't know if anybody's saying anything, but that's a brief history of who I am. It's all about horses.
Well, I love it. And you have such a heart for people in general and horses, of course, too. And I shared with everybody, when I was posting about this, that you are a leader in this sector and in all of equine assisted services, what you have done and accomplished, and how you so generously look to uplift all the other programs out there as well. And so thank you, first of all, for all you're doing. And so on top of leading this incredible organization that does so many things, you also are an equine specialist participant. You actually facilitate some of the sessions.
Yeah.
And this one that's featured in this video, Finding Hope Again, a veteran story that you'd submitted as a story, and we chose it as one to feature. And I am so glad we did it because it's so powerful. Yeah, I'd love to kind of hear a little bit more that you're able to share about the story of this veteran. Yeah, I'll just leave it there and maybe start with, if you're okay to kind of share a little bit about that process, and we can dive into some of what happened for you as a facilitator, even.
Yeah. Wow. So we started a veteran program in 2011 because we were here. And for those of you who have been to Healing Strides, when I first started 18 years ago, there was nothing here. The fences were broken down. The gates were off the hinges. We had an outside metal shed that we sat under for shade. We had porta-johns. It was really in need of a lot of help. And as we were working through the summer, we were sitting outside, this veteran walks down the driveway. And I don't know he's a veteran at the time, but he shows up and I'm like, hey, can I help you? What do you need? He says, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. And he says, well, I've done 6 tours. I've just gotten back. I've only been home 30 days. They always tell me what to do. I don't know what to do now. And I said, well, I'm a mother of 8 children. I can tell you what to do. And this is the conversation I'm having in my head. So he goes and mows the lawn. He runs the bush hog. He fixes the fences. So for 6 weeks, he's constantly helping, right? We ended up getting him into the program. And that was an amazing part of me being able to say, veterans need our help, right? I'm married to a Marine. And so I get it. They need help, but they don't always want to ask for help that directly. So this particular gentleman, this is fast forward several years. Our program is being built. We have an arena now. We have offices. We have real bathrooms. But he's been coming for about 6 weeks services, and he came with post-traumatic stress, was receiving other traditional services at the VA and other such places. And his wife was coming with him occasionally. She would drive him. And so we thought he was doing really well. And then he shows up this one day. And, you kind of get the feel for who your clients are and that they are having an off day or not an off day. And the art, if we're thinking of what we do as facilitators, it's an art, is that we have to meet them wherever they are that day. It is when they walk in, who are they that day? And I love the seen and heard of Arch framework, right? Because that's what people need. That's what they want. And so, for those of you who've watched the video, I don't necessarily need to repeat the story. If you haven't watched the video, get your tissues and please do. But during that session, as I just stated a minute ago, I'm a mom of 8 kids. This man was the age of one of my sons. And, I happened to be the equine specialist. We actually had 2 equine specialists out there that day. Deanna was with me and the LCSW Mary. But you do everything wrong on those days, right? You don't know what to do. And so being the mom, my mama bear got very strong. And that's when I simply said, do you need a hug? You look like you need a hug. And that was a pivotal moment for this young man. And it changed who he was. It changed how he thought people thought of him, because we actually saw him for who he was. And, again, in the video, you guys did, I don't know who your animators are, but you guys told that story and drew it. I mean, it's phenomenal. I cried and I know the story. It's like, oh my gosh. And But what happened to the facilitators that day was really different than any other day. And I told you the beginning of the reason why we started the veteran program with Brian. But Brian was in our barn the night before he came to meet me. And he told me this story later, after he'd been in services, after he had healed his relationship with his daughter, who was that he was in our barn at the top of the hill, which that barn is not there anymore, with a gun to kill himself in our barn. And that the horses kept coming to him, and because that barn was their shelter, and putting their head on his chest, putting their head on his shoulder. And he said, I kicked them, I screamed at them, I yelled at them. And I said, this is going to scare you. You need to go away. You don't need to see this. Get away from me. Get away from me. And he said, I couldn't do it because of the horses. And he says, I'm back here. He says, I came back the next morning because I wanted to know what kind of a place this was that had animals that were trained so well that they knew what I was going to do. And of course, we know we're not training these horses to do this. That's the beauty of the creation of the horse, right? Is that the horse knows how they know. They're playing off of our energy. It's the feedback, the biofeedback that we're giving each other. So that started our program. And then we fast forward these 4 or 5 years to when I'm now working with this other gentleman. And I can give you Brian's name because he's given us permission to use his name, and he's publicly told this story for us. This other young man, we don't have permission to use his name. But at the end of that, I've never been in a session, and I have done lots and lots and lots and lots of sessions, that I was so moved that I'm like, it is vitally important that we do self-care as facilitators. And I was an equine specialist. Now, since then, I've gotten my master's in mental health coaching, and I do some different things now. I also still work as an equine specialist, but then I was just an equine specialist. And I say just very sadly because there's no just about it. It's a vital part of that role. And one of the things that is important is that I felt like at the end of that session, I had done something wrong, and yet knew I had done exactly the right thing. And so to be able to say, I got to go take care of me. And Mary, after the gentleman had left and his wife picked him up and he left, I needed to go for a walk. And I walked my 22-acre pasture, and I went and spent time with the horses just by myself. And, Mary taught me a really powerful thing, brush it off of you, physically brush it off of you. Get that mindfulness piece to get back into your own body, because Brian's story was really powerful, but he told it over time. I did not witness that story. This story in the arena, I witnessed firsthand. I saw the pain firsthand. And as facilitators, it affected all of us. It affected Deanna, it affected me, it affected Mary. And it is so important that we are able to back up and say, you know what, even when we think we've made a mistake, even when we think maybe we did the wrong thing, if it helped that person, it wasn't the wrong thing. Because we live in these hard boxes of what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. And all of a sudden it's like, this human is standing in front of me in pain. What do I do? And like I said, my mama bear just took over. and I gave him a hug. We all know that's not typical protocol. But on the other side of that, that's what made the difference in saving his life. And go ahead, Lynn.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so much here. Yeah. And I'm like fighting back the tears, and maybe it's because I've seen the video. So maybe, as you're sharing the story, I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, I almost feel like I'm there with you. And as you're sharing your story and process, and I think so many times, we kind of maybe have an assumption that clients are just going to be in this nice, smooth uphill progression, and it looks just like this straight line, right? And we know it's messy and it's up and down. And here's someone that, maybe was on this uphill trajectory, then all of a sudden shows up in a way that maybe wasn't expected, and you could feel it. And you know, I think that's so interesting what you're talking about. One is the shoulds and what we're taught and the boxes and the boundary, and they're there for a reason.
Yes.
And when you are in a moment of a real human, this is a human situation, like you're saying. And I could even hear, as you're saying, that you went through this whole process inside yourself. Like it was a conscious, mindful decision of, I'm going to follow what my intuition is telling me here. And, you know, first of all, too, in the story, in the video too, it talks about how he's interacting with the horses when he shows up with this darkness, this energy, and that they all lay down. And I wonder if that played a role in this whole story. I mean, something so unique as here are your clients coming with this energy. It's a little bit surprising for you as a facilitator. And then you're still like holding the space. And then these horses, as the video shares, I know, I feel like I'm like giving away like some of the plot if you haven't seen it.
I hope everyone's already watched it.
It's only 3 minutes. You guys go watch it. But yeah, no, that they each took a turn laying down. And I'm sure, anyway, can you share more about what that was like, or what was happening there, and how that impacted you to watch these horses respond like that? So, and the videos, okay, I'm going to get the plot more, but in the video, he's literally sharing goodbye to the horses. I don't know if you guys could even hear that or anything, but he's, you know, shares later on, he was saying goodbye because there was no point to go on with life anymore. And anyway, yeah, share more about that part of it.
That was, and I'm actually getting goosebumps with you repeating it back, hearing my own words, you know, which is an interesting thing, which also is powerful in sessions, right? To repeat back what that person just said, because I'm hearing you tell the story and I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. We all know that occasionally a horse lays down in a session, whatever, right? It's still an interesting thing because horses have to be at a place in their own trust with the humans to be able to be that vulnerable. And so laying down is very vulnerable for a horse. There can be zero threat. There can be zero alert. There can be zero anything that they're worried about to be vulnerable to lay down. And usually, even in a herd of horses out in their own pasture, if everyone's taking that afternoon nap, there's still a sentinel standing. There's still a sentinel that's there that is saying, hey, I'm watching everything. I'll let you know if there's a problem. Well, in this day, the first horse laid down. He approached the first horse, moved away. The horse laid down. I'm like, okay. When he goes to the second horse and that horse lays down, I'm like, that's interesting. And I say to Deanna and to Mary, well, this is interesting. We now have two horses laying down, because that's kind of an odd thing. But then when he approached the third horse and the third horse laid down, I am like, oh, whoa, something is wrong here. And I'm saying that to Mary. And I said, Mary, I don't know what's going on. This is not normal. This is extremely unique. Horses don't all just lay down like that in a session. I've never seen it since. Never. I don't know that I'll ever see it again. And she's like, well, ask about it. How do you ask about that? Right? What just happened? And so as it goes in the story, you know, I simply just said, what's that about? And that's when he gets into his side of the story about saying goodbye. But for us, we were like on top alert that, hey, there's something going on here that we're not aware of, because that is extremely unusual. And these were horses that I have known for many, many, many years. One of them in particular had been born in my front yard. So I've literally known the horse since the day it was born. And those were just unusual things. And so as a horse person, you know, we know, and Lynn, you were talking about getting in the messy middle, right? And we were smack in the process. And it took me back when you were talking about it to, I did the John Lyons back when he was a very young man and I was a much younger woman and did his training. And he said, some horses, you train them and you go and you have 3 steps and you reach goal. But some horses have all these little tiny steps because you have to teach them all the little stuff because they can't make the big steps. And he said, and then you have these that go up and they loop back down and it gets very messy. And he's doing all of these curves and swerves and all these things. And that's really what the work that we do is like, right? It's not this very nice line like you were drawing. Yeah. It's that messy middle. And that day, man, we were in the messy middle. And you have to be able to rely on your gut. You have to be able to say, what is my heart telling me? What is actually happening here? Because I didn't know what to do. Mary didn't know what to do. None of us knew what to do. The horses knew what to do. And, we talk about them being an equal part of the treatment team. Mm-hmm. If we don't listen to them and rely on them, we're going to miss a bunch of stuff. And to be able to just lay it out there and give opportunity and hold that space for our clients, knowing that the horses are picking up on things that maybe we've missed, right? Now, we knew something was weird, but, we didn't know what until he told us.
Well, yeah, and I think it's hard as facilitators to be in the unknown like that. And we talk in Arch about being with, and that's what you just like, well, we just need to be with it. We don't know what this story is that's unfolding right now, but something's happening. And wow, these horses are playing a major role in whatever's happening.
Yeah.
And of course that all the horses laid down, he's literally saying goodbye to them. You guys don't know that.
Right.
And you're in that place of, wow, what's happening? And then you felt that. You felt like, I need to just give this young man a hug. And
the power of that human connection,
mm-hmm.
I think, is so vital. And sometimes we distance ourselves, and we're doing that as self-protection, which is sometimes very, very necessary. But I think part of what, especially since this whole COVID world that we're in, it's like, people are different, and that we still have those oddities about should we, could we, how do we approach people? Are you allowed to hug people? And I'm sorry, I will sometimes ask people, hey, you want to hug, or that sort of thing. But before COVID, I never asked that question. I just assumed everybody wanted to hug. But we learn that part of who we are as humans is that we have not forgotten, but we don't connect like we used to. And sometimes just touching somebody's shoulder, when they touch the horse, they're getting that energy and they're being able to relate directly. When we touch as humans, it's the same thing, and being able to uplift each other in such a way that, I have had this dear lady say to me, I don't hug people, but boy, I want a hug from you.
Well, it was kind of fun because, myself and colleagues Amanda Graham and Lynn Moore were like, we were like, that had to be Carol Young. That was totally, we didn't know that was you in the story, but we're like, oh, that must be Carol, because it's you. And I think that's part of this, is just that authenticity of being ourselves while being mindful. All those boundaries, all the guidelines are there for a reason. And we have our intuition. And here's this young man in the middle of an intense trauma moment, really. I mean, and just, words weren't what was needed there. It was action. It was being with, it was, here's the horses laying down, that kind of caught him off guard. Mm-hmm. Like, whoa, what's happening here? This is unique. Mm-hmm. And then when you gave the hug, Colin, yes to mindful authenticity. That's a comment here. I'll go ahead and share. There's another comment here. I'm a mama bear too. And I love that.
Mama bears.
And, and being our authentic, real selves. Mm-hmm. aligned with the knowledge of why there's different reasons for boundaries. Like you said, even like COVID maybe gave a little more, like not everybody's a hugger, maybe not everybody, that can be uncomfortable for some people. So doing it mindfully. So I love that, mindful authenticity. And Julie shared further, patience, as we are with our people on their arch journey. I love how arch teaches us the balance of professionalism and integrity in practice, and also remembering to show up as ourselves, as human. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for that.
And having, we all know that the first thing we're trying to establish is that therapeutic relationship, right? There has to be trust. There has to be the willingness for everybody to enter into this safe space that they can be who they are. And if we're going in there and not being who we are, how can they be who they are? And that goes down to the whole back to self-care piece. I have to take care of me in order to help take care of them. And for us, that taking care of is really just holding the space for the horses to do the powerful work that they do, that we get to witness and be a part of.
Yeah, I mean that, and so we'll come back to the self-care part, because that was really interesting what you were talking about there too. And to go back to the middle of this session that we're talking about, you give this hug. I mean, he was in a place of, I'm done. I am done. There's no point. And this horse is kind of like, oh, wait, my story is being shifted a bit right there with these horses doing something. Then your hug shifted something in him. And as you were hugging him,
a horse stood up.
Horses started standing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, can you say more? Like, that's, again, like, what on earth?
Well, and it, again, I think it's that huge energy shift, right? We talk about noticing change of direction, what's in there that's not out there, or what's in here that's not out there. But when I gave him that hug, I'm looking over his shoulder and I'm in tears, because you can feel him literally relaxing and taking a breath for the first time. I'm watching one of the horses stand up. And these were not, these were not the lay down, take a roll in the sand, I'm feeling good kind of lay downs that they do. They were like, I'm down and I'm up. And they stayed down until that hug. And then one of them stood up and I'm like, whoa. But I could feel him relaxing and breathing. And part of the whole thing is Mary then starts putting back on her suicide intervention pieces, right? She is able to start asking questions again. And every time he starts to say a yes, a shift happens again and another horse stands up. Len, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. I mean, it truly was the most unique session I've ever been in, and I've been in hundreds of sessions. But the power of the shift of the darkness and the light changed who the horses were. And for them to have picked up on the heaviness and the weight of what he brought versus him being able to breathe again. And, that exhale is so important. And that's a healing step. That was the first step towards healing. And interesting, I had reached out to him when you had asked me to, and I did hear back from him, and he sent me pictures of his beautiful mules and his horses. And he said to me, I've been at the same place now for 8 years. I've never lived at a single place this long before. And I still have my horses. Look at this beautiful, new mule I just got. And so we've chatted back and forth a little bit. But the fact that you actually care. And I think, and that Brian was the same way, and I've had many, many other people in and out, but the common thread is you see them as a human, as a person, as an individual, and you genuinely care about who they are. And it doesn't mean that we have to always get along. It doesn't mean that we always have to agree on everything, but I can still love you and care for you. And I think that part, that's when he wrote to me 4 years later, that's what he said, was you genuinely cared. I wasn't trying to fix him. I wasn't trying to throw a basket, as we were talking, of pills at him. I wasn't trying to say, I have the answer. I don't have the answer. But I care about you as another human, and I care about you as a person, and I care about you as an individual. And that's what made the difference for him. It just, I don't know how to say it any differently other than, that hug made him have the ability to breathe and to sink back to himself, and brought him into his own mindfulness that I'm still here, I'm still breathing, and somebody cares about me.
It's so powerful, what just being with one another in that kind of mindset, not just that realness, that authenticity, that love. And he felt that. His nervous system felt that. And then the horses felt that. And then when they rose up again, stood up one by one, and the message that gave him of, I can do that. I can stand up. I can get up and do this. And it shifted. I mean, he showed up in this session being done with life. And he left going, I'm willing to take some steps again.
Yep.
And that's huge.
I think you just created a really good point that I have not even really thought about until what you just said, is that we were talking about the energy shift, and you said, and the horses felt it too, right? Now we know the horses felt it, but what just went on in my own head and heart was the impact that we have on the person sitting next to us ripples, the ripple effect of that going out and out and out and out and out, that the horses were affected by that. So how much does that happen in our daily life? The smile at somebody at the grocery store, the, hey, gosh, I love your shirt, to some stranger, whatever. How much does that ripple effect go? Right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think I've ever really stopped and thought about it like that till you just said, and it went out to the horses were impacted by it. So the work that we're doing on a day-to-day basis is not just impacting us, the client, and the horses. It's going out beyond into the world. And so literally one life at a time, we are, as facilitators around the world, being able to have little ripples of impact across our nations. And that's really powerful. So thank you for that, Lynn.
Well, it's what it is. Those, what we call an arch, those arch moments, nice. Those moments of transformation that literally something, shifts. It doesn't have to be as dramatic as this story. Right. It can be very subtle. And even, like I said, offering someone a hug that seemed the right thing at the right time in the right moment, all of a sudden shifted. And the horses gave this incredible feedback. And some people are like, well, maybe the horses weren't responding to the energy. Wait, it doesn't matter, even if you think one way or the other. What matters is it had this tremendous impact. The horses did something very unique. And we see this. Those of us who do this work with the horses see this all the time, that the horses do something so unique, moment to moment, that plays right into what those clients need for their healing process.
Well, we were working with a little girl that had been abused and was in a foster care home. And so we were trying to allow her to define what she considered a safe space. Now, on top of the trauma that she had experienced, she had also had some learning disabilities. And so to try to get her to even understand what does the safe space look like, we were just playing with different things. And so she found a hula hoop and determined that her feet being in the hula hoop meant she was safe. So darn if our little old Don Quixote donkey comes over and puts his 2 front feet in the hula hoop with her boots. And I thought, I took a picture of the boots and the feet in the hula hoop. And I thought, how did they know that that's the perfect thing to do, right? And so again, a circle of impact, because then for her, he became part of her safety net. Mm. And so it's like, how did these things happen in these stories that we're creating? We were creating stories of safety and what means safety and what does that look like? And so, you just never know what they're going to do, but they always do the right thing. Those 4-legged therapists that we get to work with.
They do, and thank you for being a role model of giving them the space to do that. Well, we have some questions too. Maybe we'll address some of the questions, and then we can finish up the story of this young man in the story. But yeah, first, there, yes to the ripple effect. We do this in every session and every action every day. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing your wonderful story. So one of the questions here is, I agree being with is so important. Is there anything you do in order to prepare yourselves and the horses in order to be with?
Yeah, that's great. So for the horses, we try very hard. Our horses live out. They are not kept in stalls. They have as much free time as they can in a natural environment, so that they can act and interact in a herd, because I think that helps them prepare to come into the work. The way our arena is set up, we actually have a door that opens, and sometimes volunteers come in. Sometimes there are assigned horses, but sometimes volunteers come and say, hey, I'm ready to work today. So I think for the horses' sake, paying attention, like I will say to people, they're allowed to have a bad day. They're allowed to say, hey, I'm out today. I need to go have a mental health day, and they go back to their paddocks or their pasture. And I think that's important, that we honor what they're bringing to the table, because they're carrying a lot, right? Having a large group and only having, one or two horses is challenging. So I think having more horses allows the week session to be out there. I think if we would have had just one horse with him and that horse laid down, it probably wouldn't have been as powerful, right? Because, oh yeah, that horse just is taking a rest, whatever. So I think that's the way we prepare the horses. I think preparing us is back to that self-care piece, right? I try to do a lot of mindfulness work personally to say I need to be in the moment right now. And I have gotten really, really good at going into just a place that I'm in the moment 100% all the time right there. As the CEO of this organization, if you could see my desk, it's all kind of in corners right now. But I've got a lot of work that needs to be done, right? There's a lot of things that are happening. And so when I'm doing that, I'm doing that. When I'm out doing a session, I'm out doing the session. And that allows me time, to kind of go, okay, I can be all in. That's how you're with somebody. If I'm checked out, like, it's very hard for me, Lynn, when you go off screen for me.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
I'll get real honest. I'm like, oh, I'm talking to myself. I can't see that.
Okay.
But that's the reality of it. I am much better interacting, because when I'm by myself, I'm head down going to work, right? And so talking to myself on the screen is weird. But anyway, if I can see you, that's much better.
Okay, I'll keep it like this.
But I think that the importance of me saying that is that's what we do in the arena. Mm-hmm. I'm not out there by myself. I have a team of horses. If I'm the coach, I have an equine specialist. If I'm the equine specialist, I have a mental health provider. So you're never out there alone. And I think that's really some of the power in how we can sustain ourselves in this work, is that we're not alone. You have a whole organization, an international organization, and the calls, I don't get to be on as much as I would love to be, but the ones that I am on, man, I get stuff out of those in such a strong way to say, oh, I need that nugget of gold. Oh, I needed to hear that today, right? Going back and watching some of them on the website to say, I'm not the only one. This is a team effort, that whether it's the team of your horses, and then when you leave, truly do go through that, hey, this was a tough session, and allow time within your group to debrief those sessions with each other. Mary and Deanna and I spent a lot of time debriefing that session. Where was that for you? How did that affect you? How did that affect us as a team, right? And I don't remember why Deanna and I both were out there that day. I don't even know why. But it is one of those things that you have to do. You have to be able to say, I can't prepare myself if I'm not taking care of myself. That's how you prepare. Did you drink enough water that day? Did you bring the right clothing that day? Are your socks crooked in your boots that day? What's going on? But how do you prepare to go out there is just take care of yourself, right? Make sure that you are the best you going out there. Doesn't mean you can't have a bad day, because we all do. But if Lynn is my LCSW and I'm a yes in that day, I'm going to say, hey, Lynn, I'm having a tough day today. I need you to be on that with me. Be aware that I'm having a hard day for whatever reason, right? But have that kind of relationship. I was coaching some of my staff yesterday, and I said, you all need to be best friends when you're out there. Now, I don't mean outside of the arena. You can do whatever. You hate each other outside of the arena, but when you're in that arena, you're best friends. You need to be able to look each other and know, I'm fixing to do something. Do you get it? Is that okay with you? Have that connection to your team. The horses, same thing. They ought to know when you're looking at them, hey, I'm telling you something, don't do that. Or, hey, you know, where are you headed? Whatever, so that you're having that open conversation. I hope that helps.
Yeah. Well, I love it. I mean, what I was hearing is saying, you know, just be more like a horse, be present, be mindful, be authentic, be, you know, truthful about where you're really at, you know. And I love, you know, well, and I love too, and the horses, giving them that space that they can be themselves, be authentic, you know, that in their off time, they can be who they are. They can be a horse. They have choice, and that, you know, they have choice in the session, they have choice outside of the session. And and I love what you're talking about too, of the self-care part, and the power of physically, and that's one of, I think one of the powers of doing this type of work is we physicalize, we are doing things physically that are playing out or being what's happening internally. And when we just sit, it just stays, right? And you're saying, go on a walk, move. And I love you. And you're like, brush it off, like physically, like,
yes.
And I read I read a study one time that talked about that, about like, you know, people who like literally physically sat in a box were more likely to think inside the box than the people who they had sit outside of a box were more likely to be more creative and think of other, like the putting things into a physical space is so powerful. And I love that reminder of take a walk, literally physically brush it off, or something that helps you move it through. So, and of course, we're not alone. And I love, you know, in Arch too, we talk about too, not only are we not alone because we have our horses, we have our team members, we have the organizations that we're members of that help us always learn and grow and get new ideas. We also have our clients. We're collaborating with our clients in this journey. So I know for me, I love this reminder, just what you're saying, be with, that's what the original question was just, you know, a reminder that we just be with the flow, be with the moment, be present. Because as soon as I know, as me as a facilitator, when I start like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. Where should I take this? I'm taking it all on myself. I'm starting to stress and get anxious because I'm trying to solve it. And I think I'm supposed to be the expert, and we're not alone. We're in this together.
That was one of the things I was talking to the team about, I was coaching with yesterday, is the importance of plan Z, right? Life is all about how you handle plan B, but it's really about how you handle plan Z. Because if we go in there, and this is what I was saying to him, if you go in there and you say, here are the goals the FAP team has given me. I have to check this box, check this box, check this box, because that's what FAP is looking for. You're not doing the client any good. You're not helping the client. Yes, we have to meet FAP goals. We all know that if we've got CSA contracts, we've got to meet FAP goals. But if you go in there knowing in the back of your mind, these are my goals, but not having a preconceived agenda of what's going to happen today. If, say, setting boundaries is one of the goals, right? I can spend 6, 8, 24 weeks teaching about boundaries. And who better to teach about boundaries than a horse, right? And so I can teach that, and I can make these little tiny steps towards my goal and make fact happy, if you will. But if I go in there and say, today we're going to learn boundaries, and next week we're going to work on self-regulation, and next week we're going to work on empathy, I'm not doing anybody any good, because I have this agenda that I'm bringing to the table to say we have to do it. Whereas if I can go in there and say, somewhere in my mind, we're working on boundaries, empathy, who knows what's going to be brought up today? Maybe we thought empathy was going to be week 10 and it's week 1, because that's what happened. That's what you see in the present moment. And if you stay present, then you can go with whatever's there. The flow is so important, to bounce idea off of, well, where does that story take you? Well, what does that look like? And being curious about what the work that we're doing. I think that's where the power comes from.
Yeah, we're all just in a brainstorming experience together. Yeah. We're all just kind of working out together.
Exactly.
Well, there's another question here from Callie. I would love to know more about how you became well integrated with the VA. We recently became in-network providers from the VA, but are having trouble getting the word out to have referrals come our way from them as of yet. And the veterans, group that they love serving. And I know many programs out there serving, and the VAs, it's a whole ball of wax. But any thoughts on getting the word out to have referrals come your way from the VA?
Yes. Yeah. Woo, that is a loaded question. I have spent years building that relationship. And the best way is to get the veterans, the few that you're serving, to take the word back for you. They put out my flyers. The veterans do. They will take a stack of flyers and go put it at their resource center. They talk to their doctors about it. I have invited the doctors to come. And interestingly enough, I had an OBGYN VA doctor come to one of my awareness events here, luncheons. And at the end of the day, she's like, all of my patients should be coming here. I'm like, great, refer them. So she is now referring them. But who thought an OBGYN would be the one referring people to us?
Yeah,
right? That was not someone I would have solicited. She came as a guest of somebody else, right? Because we go for the LCSWs, we go for the psychologists, we go for the psychiatrists, we go for the rec therapists, we go for the people that we think are the right fit. And so I love that you talked about the person sitting in the box. I did a presentation years ago at a conference. And one of the things I said to people was, stop thinking there's a box. There is no box. And and then fast forward like 4 or 5 years, I went at another conference, and my instructors are coming back to me and saying, hey, I went to this great session, blah, 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 and she knows you, and she blah, blah, blah. Anyway, she comes up to me. I don't remember her because she was one of however many people at the session, but she says, you know what made me successful? I did a total switch around because I went to your thing that said there is no box. And she said, my whole business has been built on there is no box, right? And so with the VA, there is no box. You touch anybody that you can touch at the VA, and the more people you touch, the more people know about you, the better off you're going to be. I went and presented. They had a group of, this was through rec therapy. They had blind and visually impaired people, and they were trying to find things they could do. So Deanna and I went and did a presentation years ago to this group of 25 blind and visually impaired veterans, and said, hey, there's no reason why you can't be around horses, right? So right then and there, immediately, 7 of them signed up. Now, that was great, but it's getting out there and just getting the word out and who you are and what you do. And then the other thing the VA demands is you better do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to serve this many people, you better serve this many people. And they are sticklers to, if you say you have a licensed person there, then you better have a licensed oversight, whatever you say you're going to do, right? If you say you have certified people, you better have certified people. Now, I'm not saying they require it. I'm just saying you better do what you say you're going to do, because if they find out you're not, they're not going to ever send anybody to you. So that would be my VA thoughts.
Do you ever incorporate like veteran service organizations like American Legion, or do they help with the VA too? Will they advocate?
Yes.
Or Maybe they'll send you referrals, and those veterans are also in the VA system, and then they talk.
Yes.
So
VFWs, American Legion, Fraternal Order of the Eagles, anybody that touches the Moose Lodges end up having a lot of veterans involved in them. And they're not a veteran organization, but they have veterans involved. Your police forces have a lot of veterans on them. First responders, or a lot of those guys and women have been veterans previously to going into law enforcement, because that's kind of a natural path for them coming out of the military system. And so anybody that serves veterans, like there's a group that's a national group called Buddy Check. They do a once a month dinner. We'll show up at the dinner just to go have dinner with them, or sometimes we'll be invited to do a presentation. Anywhere I do a presentation, whether it's Department of Social Services, whether it's a church, I don't care where it is. If I'm presenting or some of my team is presenting, we're going to talk about the veteran program. So just get the word out.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and I know definitely, I'm sure, Carol is an amazing resource, so feel free to reach out. I know, and here, Lynn Moore mentions VA outreach coordinators are great connections.
Yeah, the vet center is
in the vet center. Yeah.
Anything that has to do with a veteran, you should be touching them if you can.
Yeah. Tim asked Carol about her puppy that does the same therapy as the horses. LOL.
Tim, I love you, my friend. You gave yourself away. So a friend of mine, Tim, was in my office one day, and it was with the vet center. He was our rep here for a while, and we became really great friends and have continued that relationship. But he had a really, really difficult phone call in my office. And I have a little Jack Russell that comes to work with me every day. And she is not the friendliest dog. She is not a therapy dog. She is my pet, but she comes to work with me every day. And I keep her on a leash so that she's safe. Well, that day she was not on a leash because Pearline had come to give her treats and hadn't hooked her back up yet. But either way, Tim had received a very difficult call. And she goes over and gets up on him and became this therapy. And anyway, they fell in love with each other, but she did exactly what he needed her to do at the moment. That's a whole different thing. I love you, Tim.
Yeah, the stories can be impacted by so many animals. Let's see. Carol, can you share more about the Veterans Breakfast?
Oh, yeah.
I guess that's is that a non-threatening way to connect?
It's a great way. So the thing with veterans is they're a different animal, if you will, since we're talking about animals. And they typically will not go to a place they do not trust. And so having the breakfast gives them a non-threatening way. We do it once a month. It's from 10 to 11. We do a tour. We do a horse interaction. If they want, they do not have to participate. If you don't have a service dog policy or a dog policy, please put one in place, because a lot of people bring their dogs. And they're not allowed to go out with the horses because that's a threat to the horse. So you need to know your rules about service dogs. But that breakfast is wonderful. We might have 6 people. We might have 36 people. So you have to be prepared because you don't know who's showing up. The VA is now busing people into us for breakfast. And they bring them from the vet center, where it's like a residential facility, long-term residential facility. So, we may have 10 guys come in wheelchairs. And I say guys because I've not had a woman come yet in a wheelchair. They bring from their memory care unit veterans to come out and have breakfast. Or we will do sometimes in the spring and in the fall, instead of the breakfast, we'll do a pig roast. And I've got some veterans that kind of took that on, and they'll cook a pig on, like a whole pig here at the farm. And then we partner with Mission Barbecue, another great place to meet veterans and to put your flyers, is the restaurants that serve veterans. And if you have a Mission Barbecue, they're a great one. But yeah, so they get here, and it's a meet and greet, right? If I'm here, and I'm not always here, someone, we have a team, is going to be out there saying hello, answering any questions. Then we have our regulars that are in service here that are at that breakfast. And so they're talking to them. And that's some of your best referral system, is the one-on-one together.
Oh yeah, thanks, Carol. That's very helpful. Well, I know we're running close on our time here. So, I mean, this is how it is with Carol. I could talk with Carol for days, actually, days and days. We could just go on.
We need to go away for the weekend, right? Just get it all out. Bring Lynn and Amanda with us.
So Healing Strides in Virginia is one of the charity partners, one of the 95 charity partners that are participating in this year's Seen Through Horses campaign. So not only is a peer-to-peer awareness campaign to spread awareness, it's also a fundraising campaign, and we do peer-to-peer fundraising. If you want more information about the campaign, go to horsesformentalhealth.org, and you can contribute to these programs even a little bit, because the idea is it generates energy. And when even if people are donating $10, $25, when thousands are doing that, it really makes an impact. And we're in the middle of our 4th campaign. And our first campaign, we were like, if we can pass $50,000, that would be amazing. And I looked at it today, and it's showing we're, I think, past $550,000 for this year's campaign. So we hope this grows year to year. Please join us each May. You can participate and apply to be a formal charity partner of it. But even if you're not, please utilize the resources, support these, donate to programs that aren't your own, and put out that energy of paying it forward, uplifting one another. And again, thank you, Carol, this amazing story, for sharing it with the world so that people could really get such a feel for how horses, and the facilitators. That's what I love about your story too. It was a collaborative effort, right? The facilitators make a big part of this process too, along with the horses and the environment, and collaborating with our clients. And of course, the cool end of the story, even if you haven't watched the video yet, it's been 6 years, 8 years, you said?
8 years, yeah.
8 years now. He's doing very well, and he bought a farm with horses, as you shared earlier. That the horses made such an impact on him that it sounds like he decided that the horses were a part of his life now. Is that any more things you'd like to share, Carol, about that story, about the campaign, about what you
say? A couple of thoughts. First of all, I want to do another shout out to Zoetis, because I have a son that is a veterinarian, and I have a niece and a nephew-in-law that are veterinarians. And the piece about veterinary wellness is vitally important also. And so, we don't always think about that, but I really, really appreciate Zoetis, and sent all 3 of those people in my life the video about the veterinarians and the importance of self-care for them. So thank you, Zoetis, for that. That's really, really important. And the awareness piece is really just vital across every stream that we have, because we did a 5K, which someone does for us, which is interesting. And we raised money through that because of this campaign, Lynn. And so they saw this campaign, then they saw the 5K, and they gave to the 5K based on what they saw on Facebook with the Horses for Mental Health, which was really an interesting thing that I didn't think would happen. But so awareness about what we do and who we are as an industry, you're doing just great things for us, which we appreciate, because we all as such benefit from a national campaign, and bringing in some of the celebrities and things that you've been able to bring in is just phenomenal. So thank you personally for all the work that you do in this industry.
Thank you, Carol. It is fun because we're not alone, and that's what this campaign is about being together, working together, uplifting each other. Yeah, and bringing in these celebrities and influencers have been amazing. They're posting and sharing about the benefit of horses and mental health to literally their millions of followers. We could never have the resources to pay for that kind of awareness and exposure. And when people talk to people, and it's just a ripple effect, like you said. Well, I sure appreciate you. And yeah, thank you for the shout out to Zoetis again, because they're the ones providing the funds that help us make these beautiful videos that hopefully all of your programs out there can utilize. You're welcome to use it, put it on your website, put it in presentations. And so hopefully, again, we can support each other, because it's life-changing. You're saving lives of humans and horses. So Carol, you are an inspiration Thank you for you. Love you. Thank you guys for able to join us live. And hopefully for those of you who couldn't, hope you enjoy the recording. We appreciate all of you and look forward to our next behind the scenes, Arch behind the scenes discussion. So thank you, Carol. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.